Howdy, my name's Jim Stobe. Myself and amateur camera crew intend to keep you entertained for the following 90 minutes with our travel guide adventure, Canada via cargo travel. First, just a brief introduction about myself. I'm 29 years old. I have a general fascination with powerful steel machines. Enjoy cold beer, and for whatever reason, still I'm unable to properly function in today's society. You know, these days the topic of traveling via cargo train is one that's often romanticized. From the songs of Woody Guthrie to the novels of Jack Kerouac. But the reality is that this activity is quite a bit less glamorous. The activity of traversing the Canadian landscape via cargo train is one that does face numerous perturbances and annoyances. From bloodthirsty grizzly bears to ill-tempered mounties and verminous mosquitoes. And while we're on the topic of dangers, I'd like to now introduce an integral member of the film crew. A man who's going to help us avoid some of the worst consequences. The man behind the camera. Cameraman is a guy with just enough criminal experience to know how to get us out of a tight spot.
Try that again.
But not enough to prevent us from crossing the border legally into Canada. In addition to handling a lot of the filming, he'll also be taking care of other assorted odds and ends, such as occasional narration. Naturally, a project of this magnitude requires extensive preparation. In addition to the obvious food, water, and survival gear, additional accoutrements will be brought to augment the enjoyability of the trip. Proper hydration is a must. You've got to make sure you've got enough liquids for at least several days. Additionally, I don't know about you, but I start to feel a little depressed if I don't have a sip out of one of these guys every couple hours.
As the camera custodian and conflict resolver of this expedition, I require a look that demands respect.
Soon we were packed up and heading to the Portland Amtrak station, where we would take a legal 6-hour ride to Vancouver. Regrettably, not as much gear fit in our medium-sized packs as we initially had hoped. So this is Vancouver, BC, at the end of August. Even though it's basically the driest part of the year, we're still drenched, and have been so since we got here. I'd just like to point out one of the benefits of traveling, you know, with a budget from a film studio and all that stuff is the ability to pay for hotel rooms. But as you can see, pretty much we're living out of here, and in this rain, I'll be honest, it's fairly miserable. Considering the possibility of detainment as foreign criminals, the encountering of malicious characters on the freight trains, and the general unknown nature of the next 2 weeks, we were both admittedly stressed about beginning the trip. This, combined with the rotten weather, created a palpable gloom over this northwest dreary megalopolis. As far as rail transport goes, this is the downtown Via Rail station. In addition, stack trains are being built along these tracks. Basically, this yard is completely enclosed with barbed wire and would require a Rambo style guy to get in there and get a free ride at least. So Canada has two separate railroads which take two separate routes from the east to the west. The Canadian National and the Canadian Pacific. Beginning in Vancouver, these two railroads essentially parallel each other all the way to Toronto and Montreal. The specific landscapes and cities that each railroad passes through generally do remain distinct from each other, with the CN taking a northerly route and the CP never straying far from the US border. An earlier reconnaissance mission to Vancouver convinced us to at least commence the trip on Canadian Pacific, as their main rail yard in the far out suburb of Port Coquitlam seemed more manageable to catch out of. So this is where the trip's going to start from, the Canadian Pacific Cocoa Yard. As you can see, there's a lot of different tracks with a lot of trains. Fortunately, this area, anything going this direction, which is south, is going to be pulling all towards east. Kamloops and Calgary, basically. So basically, just need to wait down at that end for something to go slow. It looks like it's going a reasonable distance and get on. So now that we've arrived here, it's time to go get provisions. So one of the big gigs we've already found in Canada for traveling on a budget is definitely got to be the prices of beer. I mean, taking a look here at a tall can of Colt 45.
Gonna be on your movie?
Just, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Taking a look at a tall can of Colt 45 here. $3.75 is obscene. So basically, it's looking like a little more of our budget is going to be expended at the beginning of the trip than we thought. This is $13 for this. What's going on? We are hunkered down in the bushes on the side of the tracks. It's kind of hard to see due to the extreme thick vegetation, but the train tracks are up there. I think if we had like a, I don't know, a hot dog stand in a closer beer store where it's cheap, it would be nice. city of Kamloops is the first stop on the cargo train heading east out of Vancouver. In the summer, it's one of the hottest cities in BC. It's about 90 degrees right now. And a variety of recreational opportunities exist.
From swimming in the refreshing Thompson River,
to battling a glacier-fed king salmon, to then cut into fresh steaks for the grill.
to camping in the nearby wilderness areas.
Further inland and east from Vancouver, Kamloops presents a nice break from the constant rain and gloom of the coast. That is not very delicious looking.
A popular Canadian summer pastime is the community swap meet, held outside on the weekends.
Ah, where are you from?
Oh, we're from the States,
Oh, yeah.
Colorado. Are these all, gotta buy all of them, or you gotta just, kind of just get one?
I'll sell this one for $5, but I'll sell the whole set bag and all 25.
$5 for this?
Yeah, that's a.
Along with odds and ends at the swap meet, we also require important provisions to fuel the next leg of our trip.
So we're here in Bruno's Cold Beer and Wine, right?
Yeah, you got it right.
In Kamloops. And I'm just trying to find out, why is the beer so much more expensive here than the United States?
BC has the highest tax rate when it comes to liquor. So all liquor prices in BC are jacked up because of the high taxes. If you go to anywhere else in Canada, liquor is lower, beer is lower in price.
All right, well, we've had a good time here in BC, but due to obvious reasons, it is time to start heading east. All right, so Kamloops, out, Canadian Cleaner. That's where we are.
Despite passing through a scenic, unpopulated area, we were still unable to relax in the open, as railroad employees diligently inspected the passing train for dragging brake hoses, overheated axles, and uninvited passengers.
Heading east into the Canadian Rockies, Revelstoke is the next stop when traveling via cargo train.
Being that these trains were pretty dirty and that much of Canada that lay ahead had 0 rivers, made sense to take advantage of the headwaters of the Columbia while we had the chance.
Pretty much the end of summer up here in western Canada. Got a nice band playing here. I don't really dance or do all the nightlife stuff, so I'm just kind of watching, and we're probably gonna go find a liquor store and go back to the train tracks. I did not come this far to hear this song.
No, I guess nothing too dangerous happened during the night. There was definitely a lot of, twigs snapping and stuff going on, but, I probably wouldn't sleep here 2 nights in a row. So, yeah, that's about it.
The mood in this town was generally cheerful as it was a holiday weekend, but some gloomy vibes remained. It definitely was not a pleasant thought to consider what this rail cop would do if he were to discover 2 American tourists on one of his trains. Despite Canada's seemingly more progressive and liberal nature than the United States, they definitely still took railroad security serious around this place. We resolved to block the thought of what might happen if the cops were to get us. The sunny mountain atmosphere was far too gay to be ruined by some grumpy Mountie.
Alright, well, just as a little update, still stuck in Revelstoke, British Columbia. Basically what's going on is every train showing up is going that way. Well, we're trying to go that way. I guess it's some kind of national holiday, Labor Day, same as the US going on here. And in addition to a lot of railroad employees and citizens taking a break and going and partying, also the mosquitoes are enjoying themselves today quite a bit. And for that reason, I've got this silly contraption on my head. So we're just kind of hunkered down in this little, I guess it's a camp for other people who travel the same way we're trying to do here. Alright, well, for today's update, we are kind of stuck in field as a track work project appears to have completely shut down the line. So I'm just, kind of a little disappointed with Canadian Pacific for the first time on this trip. This delay could cost us at least a day here in the field, which is not a terribly interesting little town. It's really annoying. We have got to get out of BC. $13 for this. Get a good, couple seconds just still on that. Upon arrival in the Canadian Rockies, it becomes very apparent that this area has a bear problem. The grizzly bears in this area possess a carnivorous, bloodthirsty temperament and are entirely unscrupulous about the victims they choose. Honestly, we probably shouldn't even be hanging out here, let alone camping in the middle of the night. Additionally, there are several species of wolf that inhabit this area that you do not want to run into. From the prey of numerous foreign tourists, these wolves have developed a taste for human flesh. Human flesh particularly that has been fed with expensive hors d'oeuvres at all the kitsch restaurants in all these little resort towns. Additionally, there are several species of venomous thorn that possess barbs, unmatched poisonous quality. As a fact, one of these stings can cause, at the least, irreparable nervous system damage.
Definitely went and talked with the other guy. I was like, oh, there's some guys sleeping under there.
Still here in field, day and a half later. We got to get out of this place. They've got a hostel that costs like $80 for a youth to stay at, and then it's just, but we're stuck because these trains don't leave because they're working, and I'm getting sick of it. All right, well, finally, I don't know if it is finally, this grain train has just showed up, heading east. Granted, it's been sitting here all night in the yard, but indications are we should be leaving field soon. So, cheaper beer and warmer weather lie ahead, hopefully. Stuff's already on board. Well, I guess at this point, take the time to do a little MTV Cribs style deal about the rail cars we've been traveling in. So it's pretty fortunate they run these grain trains through the country because there's a lot of guys watching these trains we've been noticing. And, you're not supposed to be on the trains in Canada if you didn't know that. So basically what you've got here is a good way to stay out of sight and fairly comfortable
kind of got like a two-person compartment in this hole. So I mean, you know, you got room for all your stuff, some beer in there. You got a nice porch if you happen to be in a place where you can look at the scenery without guys looking in here. And you've even got, you know, emergency food here. I think these are soybeans. They're not bad. They'll keep you alive. So, I mean, your main danger on one of these trains is going to be pulling off, you know, in the middle of nowhere on a siding at a grain elevator to refill this train, as these go from eastern or middle Canada to the west coast. Now right here, not a big danger, but we're almost out of the mountains, and after that point, all bets are off where this train's going to end up. Yeah, so we've been doing pretty good so far because all the trains pretty much only go one direction, but you know, pretty soon it's possible we're just going to get on a train and go the wrong direction. And it could be this one as soon as the next turn. So, you know. The grain train would then cruise through scenic Banff National Park on its way out of the mountains and into the plains. So this is Calgary. Understand it's not the most exhaustive view of the city you're going to see, but the train has pulled into basically a fortress of barbed wire in the downtown with very little way to escape. And pretty much this looks like another big city to me, so we're just going to cruise on through. So apologize if you wanted to see a lot more of the town, but it's just probably not doable for us right now. On second thought, we're gonna chance getting some beer. I'm sure this train is gonna be gone, but probably have the worst luck possible. But we have to get something. This thing's been sitting here for like 8 hours, Calgary. There's the train, and there is the beer store. Yes! 10 minutes, we'll be back on. That guy in BC was lying. 6-pack. Unbelievable. $50 for a 24-pack. Canada, I gotta tell you, is overrated so far. I gotta get out of sight. We're leaving Calgary, going eastbound so far. Jim Stobe out. I'm not sure which direction we're going. I think we're going east. But when it's dark, obviously it's hard to tell. train is crew changing in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, and I think we're just gonna stay on. They're totally filthy and just roll it into some town in Canada with packs on it. It's just not probably gonna make things easier. So our main worry is gonna be that this train possibly dead ends before the next crew change at one of these grain silos, but this town just doesn't look fun to be off, covered with dirt. I'd like to get cleaned up in a river. There's probably a river and we're just gonna miss it, but whatever. Too late. The snake is in that hole right there. We're just never can be sure if it's the right decision to stay on or not. There's a lot of trains on this line, and you know, we could be stuck here a while if we get off. We'll be stuck somewhere, guaranteed. Honestly, I'm starting to get sick of this whole trip. Oh, this is not a good sign. 5 miles outside of town and stopping at this train silo. I don't know if we'll find out soon if this is the end. I hope not. Well, so far, so good. Stopping to let another train pass. Feel very fortunate if we get much further into Saskatchewan in this grain car. We're still thousands of miles from Toronto, and you know, at this speed here, it's gonna take a while. We're doing good, making good time. Kind of just stuck out here. This is what Saskatchewan looks like. So it's a little scenic, but also, I've got to be honest, it's starting to get to a point where the fun of doing this tour guide isn't quite there anymore, because we're stopped. They keep cutting off grain cars, and this is quite a distance from the nearest town. We're low on water. I mean, it's super hot now. We're like out of water. I am dirty. You can see, I mean, the dirt going on here is of an industrial level. Cleaner required. And the funk just kind of coming off all over my body is starting to be offensive even to me. Yeah. Just about had it after that one. Oh, in the latest round of nonsense, the cameraman has disappeared off to make a phone call about 2 hours ago, and we are split up in Moose Jaw. Additionally, I may have lost my passport, which is not good either. So, yeah. Grim times, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. It's like gotta be 100 degrees here in September. It makes no sense. So yeah, I'll go try to find the cameraman. What the hell, man? I've been looking everywhere for you. Where the F were you?
I was over at Wang's Buffet. They had that $7.99 special.
Dude, we didn't say anything about meeting over there. That's retarded.
I thought we said we were going to meet up at the Asian
delayed a
buffet
day.
place downtown.
It's a day's delay, man.
Well,
Don't go disappearing like that. It's
I got
seriously
unlimited
ridiculous.
crab cakes. So,
Dude, you disappearing like this cost us probably a day, and I still can't find my passport. So, whatever. I'm glad you got your food in. Well, I wanted to show a little bit more about Moose Jaw, but I've been spending the last day trying to find a camera guy here. So pretty much we're gonna have to do the next train or something. It's really not a very interesting town, honestly. There's just a lot of guys driving really big trucks around and guys on motorcycles. So it's pretty much like Sturgis. I think we're just north of it anyway. So I think it's what, September 6th? Something like that. Well, we were trying to keep things, you know, low cost, but I had to rent this stupid ass car to drive back to where 50 miles back my effing passport probably fell off when the train stopped. So that's what we're doing. Setting us back a time, setting us back a day, but gotta get that thing, man. Canada is not a place to not have a passport anymore. You can't do it. I've got to just point out that the stress of the situation, being in a foreign country as lawbreakers and criminals, is really starting to become problematic to me and the crew. The idea of aborting the mission and returning to the US is not outside our minds right now. If we can't find that thing, it's a real possibility. While we are breaking the law up here, neither of us has any other criminal intentions other than traveling on cargo trains. And if we're going to get pulled off, I want to get pulled off with a passport. At this point, we're really starting to miss our homeland. While Canada is certainly a friendly, laid-back country, we're not Canadians. And now with my missing passport, it's possible things could even be getting worse. Facts are that if it's gone, we may have to end the trip early. I personally don't really feel like staying in the country under these circumstances. God! Unbelievable. 50 miles back on a sighting. Unbelievable miracle right by the tracks. Had to rent this stupid car. Drive back here to get this, but I think it's worth the pain in the ass that it was. I got off the train yesterday and this thing fell off right here. I remember it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, well, you know, due to time constraints and also just kind of needing a break from the dirt, got this rental car across a good amount of Saskatchewan. And as you can see over here, the train tracks are pretty much next to the road. Scenery's pretty boring to this area, so I mean, I think for the sake of everybody, this was a good idea to do this.
The open road.
So we've arrived in Brandon, Manitoba, and we'd like to introduce another guy who's traveling the same way. This is Hugo.
Hi, it's Glenn.
Who I guess is coming from the east, as you can tell from his accent. Where did you come from, Hugo?
I come from Montreal.
Do you have any interest in being a translator for our group? We're actually going in that direction.
Un traducteur? Non mais t'es fou. No, I don't do translator for you. No.
So I mean, you're on these trains. You're French.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not worried about getting pulled off by the bull or.
The balls are terrible, but once you talk French, tu sais un peu, voilà, je comprends pas, voilà, they're fine. Just say, je ne sais pas, ha ha ha. Just try something like this and it will be fine.
That's like an effort to confuse those guys because.
Yeah,
Okay.
Definitely. And be
So-
careful, they don't want Amway shirt.
We may be going, into that area where no one speaks in English in Canada.
That's cool. Like that, you
Yeah.
can say that you can just talk in English and they will not understand. And they say, okay, go away.
So what got you? Why are you on freight trains? You're not the typical guy doing this.
Why I'm on freight trains? Because it's free, and you feel free.
So you're a
So
French bum, in other words.
yeah, how can I say that?
All right, man. Good talking.
It's
Bon-
pleasure to meet you.
Bon voyage.
Ouais, bonne chance à toi.
so we have now arrived in Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is about a couple hundred miles north of Minneapolis. We're about halfway. It's a big accomplishment, I think, so far that we have not been arrested. And I can say that our spirits they're a little bit ragged. We're dirty. There's guys hitchhiking, getting picked up all the time and going way further and faster than us and staying clean. So some travel plans may be amended. So just showing the Canadian Pacific Rail Police maintain a presence even a far distance from the yard. This is the Winnipeg main lines heading east, which is a solid mile and a half from the yard. And we still have fences, we still have this stuff. So they're definitely vigilant up here, which I don't quite understand. I mean that they, I don't think, have terrorist threats or any of that nonsense that we do in the US. So what we're trying to do here is see if these trains are pulling out slow enough from the yard so we can just board out here. This is kind of a safe little area east of the yard where there's not a fence. I'm really hoping they'll just pull out at a speed where we can get on here, because there's a reputation in that yard for being a big, powerful bull presence, security cameras, all that crap. So we're doing a little reconnaissance right now to see if these trains will allow us to leave in safety. Well, looks pretty good so far. Now we just gotta find if there's a beer store in the area. All the ridiculousness continues in Manitoba. This is a 6-pack. Every single 6-pack is extremely expensive. Basically, I'm about ready to just head south into the US, folks. We're actually considering laying off one of our stuntmen to pay for the beer budget. So sorry, Steve Evans. Sorry about your crap, but we do have habits we gotta keep. Miraculously, there's actually some better deals in the States if you really look hard. This is chartreuse. That's usually about 35. We also have Cointreau for 33. Never seen that for that price, so maybe I'll figure out some kind of flavor. It's $3. Is that going? So you work for Canadian Pacific?
No, I did a year. I was working on I retired from the military 30-something years, and I went there for 1 year, worked on the games. It was a good experience, hard work. Yeah. Not an old man's game, believe me. They work hard, those young guys in the railroad. I gotta admit.
They do. It looks like pretty hard work from what we've seen. You wear a nice bright yellow vest.
Yeah, when you're a rookie on the CP rail, the first year you wear a yellow vest. That shows that you're a rookie. And then once you finish your first year, you wear the orange vest. You work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and then you get 7 days off. You're working crews of anywhere from 2 to, you have to have minimum 2 for safety.
You guys have bulls here, like you call it that? I got like a police guy who goes around and checks all that stuff too.
We have railroad police for sure, and they're always on alert. But it's actually our railroaders that are, when a train goes by, you stop and you check the train always.
Now, we just see, I mean, we like watching trains. Sometimes we see these huge fences. Like, do they have do they worry about terrorists around here the same way?
Well, I think what they do is they're aware. Everybody's aware of the threat, and they do take precautions.
As you can see on the east edge of the yard, this fence is major overkill. Not even Rambo could summit this thing. And what's worse, the barbed wire is turned inward, meaning you're more likely to be trapped inside once you're in. So this is Winnipeg, which is about halfway through the trip so far. In the middle of Manitoba, it's pretty much just a big city out here. And I guess it's interesting. It's got an interesting name.
The Red River flows directly south to Fargo, North Dakota. Some of the best chicken, or food for that matter, in Winnipeg is at this gas station on Pacific.
On par with the finest of the south side of Chicago.
The main Canadian Pacific train yard is enormous, connecting points of the central United States as well as eastern and western Canada. Well patrolled and obviously well fenced off, this yard appears to definitely be a task to catch out of.
So far, scenery-wise, we've seen the Coast Range of British Columbia, leading into the Canadian Rockies, and then into the Plains. Moving forward for the second half of this, we're going to be looking at a lot more forests, a little more rural area, and it's just going to generally be a totally different scenic look. There's not going to be mountains, and the plains are probably about done as well. It should be fairly interesting heading into Ontario. Alright, well, pretty much that's Winnipeg. We're just kind of hunkered out here by the tracks. You can see far enough down where there's no fence. I'm hoping they're going to go slow here. Yeah, so as kind of the halfway point of the trip, I could just offer some insight into morale. I mean, myself and cameraman are both just getting, you know, a little exasperated with the amount of dirt on our bodies, as well as, you know, going extended periods without bathing. Pretty much walking down the street, you can tell in people's looks that, you know, we look like total bums. Pretty girls will take a look, glance away. It's not a whole lot different than usual with that. So basically, we're just looking for improved conditions for the remainder of the trip through Ontario. And honestly, I don't have a lot of hope it's going to be out of here immediately. First of all, we got a junction down here where our train may go the wrong way and into the US, which is kind of veto things. Additionally, I don't even know if they're going to go slow through here. We haven't seen one yet. So, and here to describe better than me how the warm river flowing through town is, cameraman.
Yeah, it reminds me of a dog bowl that a big slobbery bulldog just took a drink out of and left behind a lot of little treats and goodies in.
So does that mean you're not cleaning off in it?
No, I thought it was great. I took a dip. Feel a little bit cleaner.
So it's about 2 hours later. Nothing. It's got to be about 100 degrees out here, which I find odd for September. I think it's like September 8th. It's got to be that hot. I mean, it's not quite that hot, but you know. I mean, look at these conditions. This is what we're doing. This is what we're living in. Just maintaining morale and physique during these long waits. Yeah, so I mean, summing it up, we've seen so far, you know, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, some of Manitoba, and it's been all right. I mean, the problems have been a lack of affordable beer and additionally a definite excess of guys by the tracks watching the train, which is keeping us hunkered down inside. So what we're looking for, going east to Kenora and further, we're looking for more swimmable rivers where we can clean off, beer that's not going to murder the rest of the movie budget, and basically just a little more relaxed vacation style trip. It's been a lot of hard work out here, honestly. This is military. Well, the thing showed up. This is what's known as a hot shot, which guys are going to be watching. We're pulling out of Winnipeg. Everything looks good. It's the time you gotta stay down for high priority containers. I admit it's a little stressful wondering why we're not speeding up. You don't dare peek outside. There's the bulls out there watching. This is commando. This is military. This is something probably you'd want the Army or the Marines for, not the Coast Guard. Kenora, Ontario.
This place looks way too awesome not to get off. Kenora, Ontario. This has to be the most interesting spot ever that I've seen a train stop. Train stops there, and there's Lake of the Woods here, Kenora, Ontario. So this is Kenora, which is now into Ontario, right on the Lake of the Woods, which is a very interesting lake. Has kind of just tendrils that creep all the way down into Minnesota. And you got seaplanes going on, you got tourist boats, all kinds of stuff like that. So basically it's a good place to come if you can find a way to get up here with family, kids kind of thing. There's a lot of castle-style architecture, which I think is really interesting. As far as us going, the beer prices are still exorbitant, and we're pretty much just going to take off right now. Train is stopped somewhere near Thunder Bay, I think. Considering just walking in, considering it's supposed to be a fairly difficult yard. Looks like it's about 3 miles that way. So we got the Extreme Italian at Tim Hortons with the, I guess, extreme filth looking guy. So this is Thunder Bay, another town with a really interesting sounding name, right on the northwest shore of Lake Superior. Mid-September in Ontario saw the seasons already beginning to gloom over in preparation for another seemingly endless winter.
One of the more interesting cultural attractions of Thunder Bay is the prolific quantity of castle-style architecture. A lot of the rail activity here is grain cars going to these docks where the grain is loaded on the freighter ships to travel across Lake Superior to various destinations and possibly all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. So here at the commissary in Thunder Bay, which is an excellent selection of sausages. I'm going to get these chorizos and this hot jalapeno cheddar type thing. So, should be interesting. For $6, one of the good deals we found.
That's what bacon looks
That's
like.
bacon right there. Nice.
You hang around long enough, I'll bring a peppered ones.
That looks
Oh, nice.
so good. Yes. Thank you very much. Well, it's the darkest hours of the night in Thunder Bay. We are ready to depart to the east towards Toronto on this stacked path. So it's going to be a long trip for the rest of Ontario, and it is wet, but it is definitely time to make tracks on the tracks. Today we're going to be featuring several fine Canadian liquors, as well as a mild appetizer, an effort to show you what is available on the road these days. Today's three choices: Polar Ice Vodka, Alberta Premium Canadian Rye Whiskey, and a fine brandy, Niagara Bench small cask. All of these made in Canada. Additionally, for food we have luncheon meat available at the Dollarama. Our first selection, Polar Ice Vodka, made in Toronto. Bartender, serve me one up. Pungent, yet icy. Guaranteed to add bellicosity to any lacrosse game. Next, we have Alberta Premium Canadian Rye Whiskey.
Reminds me of what Joe Thornton may drink before a hockey match with a rival team that he's just ready to smash.
And finally, Niagara Bench small cask brandy. Pour it here, bartender. Pretty much tastes like what they fuel these trains with. In the event of one of our rides running out of gas, I would gladly oblige with a smile to help them refuel. When one looks at the sinister north woods of Ontario, it's pretty obvious this place is wild.
Besides these tracks, there's not another road in either direction for 60 miles. Apart from a few small scattered towns, it's basically an unimaginable vast wilderness with very little civilization between here and the Arctic Circle.
So this is Chapleau, a small isolated town 450 miles northwest of Toronto. The town of Chapleau has a variety of summer and winter recreational activities. So it's got all the hunting, fishing, and snowmobiling, as well as hibernating inside watching satellite TV under 8-foot drifts of snow from October to May. But the main attractions for Chapleau, for us two, the beer store, is a short walk from where we catch the train. This could be it, folks. Final ride into the rest of the way. Stacks. We're in Chapleau. Need to stay down. Another hotshot. Next stop, Toronto, we're hoping. Look, right in there, looking for guys riding.
Well, the train arrived Toronto in the darkest hours of the night. And that is the final train of this trip. So definitely a little disappointed with Toronto train situation. We are about 20 miles past actually. Got to figure out how to get in, but that is it. Final train. No, I hate to just be a complainer and a whiner. I understand I just got a free ride on this train, but stopping 20 miles past town, that's absurd. That is very inconvenient to say the least, that this railroad doesn't have any yard or nothing within 20 miles of the town. We just completely blazed past the CN Tower and all that stuff helplessly at 40 miles an hour. As you can see, the trains one must pay for not quite as pleasant an experience. After a solid 2 weeks of stress and hard work, it sure was a relief to feel safely off the trains for good in Toronto. For the first time on the whole trip, we were able to do something we'd wanted to do. Just be tourists enjoying a foreign country without any worries of jail cells, deportation, or villainous animals for a change. The mission had actually been a complete success. We had arrived at the destination unharmed, unarrested, and with ample footage of what we had intended to show. It was hard to believe, but the most difficult part of the project was now entirely in the past. Due to some fortune with the exchange rates, we were actually able to afford a decent hotel room for the night, despite the high beer costs. The first hot shower in 2 weeks left us feeling pleasantly clean, but also sad to say goodbye to all that Canadian soil we had kept on our bodies for so long. While I understand entirely that we were acting as trespassers, lawbreakers, and foreign criminals, I'd like to reiterate that our intentions were entirely peaceful. Hopefully, we are successful in showcasing Canada as a civilized, friendly, and most of all, scenic country, in a manner that the average travel enthusiast hasn't seen before and doesn't want to try themselves. I'm not going to get in the way of it. The CN Tower was built by Canadian National Railway and is the tallest building on Earth. Interestingly enough, this is the first time during the whole trip being on railroad property without having to trespass. Ready? Let her ride.
I got this racket going on now. I figured out you can brew your own beer. Trust me about it.
So just to summarize what's been going on here. We've ransacked British Columbia, blitzkrieged across Alberta and Saskatchewan, briefly dipped into Manitoba, and discovered Ontario. A lot of folks are probably thinking, why didn't you go further east? But you know, I don't speak French. Do you speak French? Those guys don't even want to be part of Canada. No, dude, that's it. Canada by cargo trains.